You are listening to Swamp Things, a podcast about University of Florida sports with the Orlando Sentinel's Edgar Thompson and the AP's Mark Long. Edgar and Mark discuss the goings-on with the Gators in Gainesville, where each is a longtime resident who has seen championship success, coaching turmoil, and plenty of drama on and off the field.
Greetings and welcome to Swamp Things, the podcast about the Florida Gators. It's January 9th, 2026. Here in Gainesville, Florida, Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel with Mark Long of the Associated Press. First Swamp Things of the new year, Mark, comes during like the craziest and you could argue maybe most critical week for the, Jon Sumrall's new team with the transfer portal. But look, man, let's just get to last night's game first, okay? Right, this is like the biggest week in college football in many ways. I mean, two huge games, another tonight, Indiana, Oregon, for another spot, or the other spot opposite Miami in the national championship game, January 19th. I mean, what a game last night, man. Miami beats Ole Miss 34-27. Is that the final score, I think? Is that what it was?
34. It was a 4-point game, right? 34.
31-27.
31-27. Yeah.
Don't have
4 points. Vegas had it nailed again. 3.5, right?
It's unbelievable, right? I thought about that. I nearly texted you because I beat you again.
Yeah.
got you by the hook. Just quick thoughts on it. I tell you, Trinidad Chambliss is just unbelievable. But then Carson Beck, I was shocked. I thought they were cooked. I'm like, Beck doesn't have this in him. And he made 3 incredible throws on that final drive and then ran it in for the winning score. Fantastic game. Lived up to all the promise. Let's hope we get another one tonight.
Yeah, really. I think it comes back to me to Malachi Tony. I thought Beck was very good, no doubt about it. But Malachi Tony, this guy's a difference maker. They ran the ball well all night. The lines of scrimmage were fantastic as we expected. Beck was a little bit of a wild card, but to me, Malachi Tony, I don't know what he finished with, but that play at the end, it was just very much Percy Harvin-esque. We saw that in 06 and 08, where one guy can absolutely change, a game, can wreck a game. You have to account for him. And to me, that was Malachi Tony. That play he made to get, it looked like Ole Miss had all the momentum. And then all of a sudden, Miami strikes. I think it was a 4-play drive with a little easy little screen pass, a little quick wide receiver screen and tunnel screen almost. And the guy just weaves his way back through the defense, making guys miss. He had a fantastic catch along the sideline that was ruled out of incomplete. But incredible. he was just another world
He's like
type
50
player.
inches off the ground for that one, man.
Yeah, just all otherworldly. And when you have guys like that, you always have a chance.
He had 92 total yards on 7 touches, which belies the insane performance he put on. I'll tell you, man, it's funny. I was on Shane Matthews' pod this morning, and I mentioned Harvin also, which that doesn't come past these lips very often because he's really, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the most explosive college football player I've watched and been around a good bit. And this kid is like that. And Shane had the comp of Tyreek Hill. I don't think he has the top end speed maybe of either of those guys. If you put him on the clock, maybe. But God, he has just got such a sense of the defenders. And did you see how they designed that play? Kirk Herbstreit showed just how the line, they just almost like a punt, like, that you do that line with the punt and set the wall. What an incredibly well-schemed play. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I saw that the final play, I was reading a story this morning about the final play where Beck ran the ball, was a play they hadn't run all season. And they've had it in the playbook all season, but they didn't. They pulled it out there, and they knew it was contingent on Beck making the right read. They trusted him to do it, and he did it. 23 of 37, 268, 2 touchdowns and an interception. The guy was good. Fletcher was unbelievable. And Tony, 5 for 81 with a touchdown. 10 targets, only 5 catches.
Yeah, he had
yards,
two rushes.
77. 77 yards after the catch, too. Unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Well, it was a lot of screening, a lot of screen passes. And Beck, though, made some throws downfield that were just so clutch and just delivered on the button. Because he looked a little shaky at times. And I just didn't think he had it in him. And he really answered critics last night. I tell you, though, the transfer portal, though, sucked up all the oxygen in the room until that game. And that game kind of reshifted the focus back on the game a little bit, right? Tonight we got Indiana, Oregon. I'm excited for that one. Obviously, it's a rematch, which kind of doesn't do it for me that much. But the first game was an epic out there in Eugene, so let's hope for another one of those. But the transfer portal opened a week ago. Thousands of players have entered. I think the total was over 4, wasn't it? Hundreds have found new homes. Maybe more than 1,000 have found new homes. Certainly hundreds, including at 14 or 15 with the Gators. And but let's begin with guys they got back, because that's really was the crux, the big push, initial push for Jon Sumrall was getting back to Big Five. And this is Jadan Baugh, the top priority, 1,170 yards, most since 2012 during the regular season, ending with 266 against Florida State. He'll be the centerpiece of Buster Faulkner's offense, you got to think. 2 legacy Gators, leading tackler Miles Graham, leading receiver Vernell Brown, who became a bona fide playmaker right out of the gate with the number 1 play on SportsCenter Top 10 with that falling backwards one-hand stab against Long Island U. Then you get 2 freshmen who flashed elite potential at times, though limited. Dallas Wilson with his huge game and debut against Texas, but a foot injury cost him all but 4 games. And Jaden Woods, the edge rusher, who flattened a Texas receiver, which was one of the highlights, had the interception Ole Miss, and certainly flashed a lot, but, needs to put it all together to become kind of the edge force they really haven't had since you mentioned John Grenard. He could be in line to be that guy. So quick thoughts on the Big Five, Mark.
Yeah, and we don't say this like tongue in cheek. This isn't like after the fact. Now these were the 5 targets. These were the 5 guys we were told weeks ago, a month ago. These were the 5 guys they targeted. These are the 5 guys they wanted to keep. These are the 5 guys who meant the most to the program. These are the 5 must-haves, absolutely must-haves. And to go 5 for 5 is an absolute feather in the cap, pat on the back, high-five each other, till the season starts, because that's what they deserve. They got this staff, Dave Caldwell as the general manager, Jon Sumrall as the head coach, together with a bunch of other guys filling in. But to be able to get these 5 back, and it's not like any of them were slam dunks. Maybe Miles Graham was a slam dunk. This guy had said even before the season ended, even before Jon Sumrall was hired, Miles Graham had made it pretty clear that he wasn't going anywhere. This was home for him. This is where he wanted to be. But for the other 4, it was up in the air. It was, you never know. Now, again, only one of them actually went in the portal. That was Jaden Woods. But, again, to work all this behind the scenes, get the money done right, get these guys feeling good about the direction of the program is everything, really. And now these guys will settle in, and there's going to be these are your 5 leaders. This is who it's going to be. Maybe Philo comes in. Maybe Tramel Jones steps up. Whatever at quarterback, the reality is these are the 5. This is the backbone of your organization. And anybody who's been around these guys, anybody who's watched these guys play would understand that why they were so important, because there's talent there, or there is potential there, one of the two. And obviously, Dave Caldwell and Jon Sumrall saw it, almost instantly turning on the tape.
Wesley, please put the Miles Graham photo up again. I love that guy. I think he's answering one of my questions. He's looking my way. There you are. Just kidding. The key to the turnaround is going to be who joins these guys, though, really, right? They can't do it alone. And they got back 2 linebackers, Aaron Childs, Jaden Robinson, both produced. You put him with Miles Graham, you're running a 3-4. I'll be interested to see how that works. Cam James, who I believe in the second half of the season really kind of started standing out and will come back for his senior year, 6'6", 270 something, elite athlete. We've talked about, he says he's the best dunker on the team. I mean, that's pretty impressive at 6'6", 275. Dijon Johnson suffered a season in a knee injury at Miami, September 20th, so he should be good to go by next season. We'll see for the spring. But he was a guy they flipped from Ohio State, thought he could be an elite corner. He's shown some abilities there, but they need him to be with Devin Moore moving on, who had a pretty good season and stayed healthy. And then Bryce Thornton, the safety. You lose 3-year starter Jordan Castell. Bryce outplayed him last year, was productive, had some big plays, and we'll remember the Ole Miss game where he had 2 interceptions in the last 2 minutes to seal that one back in 2024. So those are veteran guys, but then you shift to the portal. And that's where, like I'm saying, the most critical week, because there's one window now, and this is where you really got to make hay and fill needs. And the biggest need was quarterback, obviously. DJ Lagway moved on. Tramel Jones has no inexperienced guy, just turned 19. They really like him. And there's a lot to like, leadership-wise, accuracy-wise, decision-making-wise, maturity-wise. But you go get Aaron Philo, the Georgia Tech backup the last 2 seasons to Haynes King, worked in Faulkner's system for 2 years. I read a stat this morning. He wasn't sacked in 102 pass attempts, which pretty good. Maybe that's a line thing. Maybe that's a decision-making thing, mobility thing. He's an athlete. He broke Trevor Lawrence's passing yards record, Georgia State passing high school record. And then his senior year threw 56 touchdowns, which was a state record. So he was great in high school, and we'll see if he can be great for the Gators.
Yeah, and I think everybody thinks that this is Aaron Philo, knowing Buster Faulkner's system, is a plug and play. He's a starting quarterback. But everything I've heard says, this is a legit competition. They're going to give Aaron Philo and Tramel Jones Jr. every chance to win the job. Both of them will be inundated already, right? Beginning now. And we'll see who emerges by the end of the spring. Yeah, maybe the end of spring game. Probably not. My guess is, now you can do that. Here's the thing, what I would say is you would be worried about this in past years, because if you name a starter coming out of the spring game, the other guy can go jump in the portal, that spring portal, and be gone, and you're toast, right? If an injury or whatever, you're down a guy with no real means of fixing him, replacing him, and having him ready for June or July. So this is different. Now these guys, so you might be able to name a starter coming out of spring, because there's nothing the backup can do. The backup is the backup, and the backup now is here through the season. So from that standpoint, it gives the players go from having all the power to now the teams have a little more power once this transfer portal window goes. But I do believe it'll be a competition that'll carry into camp, and we'll find out maybe a week or 2 into camp who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Gators this fall.
It used to be that way all the time. So much quarterback uncertainty going in this spring. So, which is exciting and gives us something to write about every day. But the Philo I was reading about a little bit today. Keith Niebuhr and Corey Bender watched some film, broke them down for 1-3, talked about how quickly the ball comes out, the decision making, his poise. Those are things we didn't really see this past season with DJ Lagway, be it injuries, be it lack of preparation, lack of confidence. And that was the one thing about Tramel Jones he showed in the LIU game, if you recall, how quickly the ball came out and his decision. He knew where to go with it. And that you need that, man. They did not have that last season. So we'll see if Aaron Philo in an offense he's comfortable in his third year in college, when a guy's really starting to feel himself. I'm excited to see the guy. I'm excited to see Tramel Jones too. I did a big piece on him entering the season, or actually after the LIU game. You know, he was at the same high school as Carson Beck, played for the same coach who coached Carson Beck, Jacksonville Mandarin. And he says this guy's elite. He started as a freshman in high school for a good program. So Tramel Jones isn't going to back down in this one, this quarterback competition. So it'll be a good one. But, you know, they'll be playing, let's hope, behind a better offensive line. Last year's unit entered the year considered the fourth best unit by Pro Football Focus, and certainly didn't live up to that standard. I mean, it wasn't like atrocious, but at times it was. And the better defensive lines, be it Miami, Texas A&M, they put a lot of pressure on DJ. LSU, 5 interception night. I mean, some was on DJ, but some was pressure. So they need to improve up there. They picked up 2 offensive linemen from Penn State, DJ Shanahan, Egan Boyer. Both played for Phil Troutwine, the new offensive line coach, former Gator, left tackle for the 06 and 08 national champions. I don't know that he was a guy with elite athleticism coming out of high school. He's a New Jersey kid, but he certainly developed, had grit, played smartly. You covered him more than I did because you covered the 08 year. I was gone by then. He missed 07, I believe, with an injury. So he came back from an injury and got his starting job back. So I'm intrigued by that familiarity. Phil Troutwine identifying these 2 guys to bring from Happy Valley to Gainesville.
Yeah, those are the ones who stand out because of familiarity, right? The other one is the center, Harrison Moore, 6'5", 300-pound guy from Georgia Tech. He's going to have familiarity with what Buster Faulkner's trying to do from an offensive scheme standpoint. And then Shanahan and Boyer, 2 guys who have familiarity with what Phil Troutwine's going to try to do. This is a big ask, right? You've got to replace three or more starters on the offensive line. TJ Slaughter, an All-American, Austin Barber, a 3 or 4 year starter at left tackle, and Damian George, a bit of an anchor there at right guard. So you got guys you're going to have to try to replace, and bringing them in and having these transfers who have played a lot of football, and played in schemes, and 4 guys on this offensive staff, that gives you a head start in rebuilding it. And I've said this from day one. I said it again, and I'll say it till September. If you fix Florida's lines, you fix Florida. Florida was not good enough in the trenches on all offensive line or defensive line last season. Got pushed around in all of its important games, big games against big teams, against SEC teams, mostly got pushed around. They played well, against Florida State. Certainly played well against Texas. But other than that, it was really, you watch these guys, you're going like, really? This is what you're back for year 2 or 3 like this? So to me, those are the big 3 standouts in the portal. I'm sure Philo I'll be a believer in him at some point, but I haven't seen enough, right? No. These guys, haven't seen them either, but at least they're walking in knowing exactly the position they're in, and they're plug and play starters. That's the only way to look at it. Is these are the 3 guys who can definitively pencil in as plug and play.
I don't think the Georgia Tech center is in the hay and in the barn with him yet, but here's the thing, Harrison Moore, but they have gotten, I believe, unless I'm missing something, and believe me, I am not in the Corey Bender, Matt Zenitz or whatever, these guys that are breaking all this stuff, Hayes Fawcett and all these guys. I don't know who they've missed, but it doesn't feel like Florida's really missed on anyone they've tried to get, which is super impressive. Now, behind the scenes, they might be someone they've targeted. And, I guess this tight end from New Mexico was a guy. And when they got the James Madison tight end, he decided to go elsewhere. Maybe he was a target. Seemed like he pretty good player. But beyond that, they're getting who they want. So I expect Harrison Moore, to put his John Hancock on something soon enough. Here's some other guys they've gotten that are intriguing, Mark. You get 2 wide receivers, Bailey Stockton, Georgia Tech kid, so another, familiar face for Faulkner and Philo. Wake Forest is like that alliteration. Wake Forest is Micah Mays Jr., a Benjamin School 4-star from Palm Beach who played at Wake, put up some decent numbers. 6'2", though, 195, has some nice size. You got Cincinnati tailback Evan Pryor. And then yesterday, they got East Carolina tailback London Montgomery. So they are stacking up that running back room. Jabbar Jalouk, glad to know you. I mean, it was like he was leaving and everyone's like, oh, man, because he really was able to put together a great running back room. It looks like this is a pretty good room coming together. Pryor is explosive. He was the number 7 prospect at his position coming out of high school in 2022, went to Ohio State 2 years, didn't play much. Cincinnati, an explosive guy. And then London Montgomery was a 3-star kid out of North Carolina, went to ECU, led the Pirates in rushing last year with about 750 and 7 scores. So you're going to have some real depth at running back. Plus you got Duke Clark and Byron Lewis back. So got to like that. There are others. Give me someone you like. Maybe I haven't mentioned, or one of those guys, or what do you like?
Well, I'm going to steal your guy.
No.
Why not?
I'm kidding. If you can pronounce his name, you can have him.
I'll try. Emmanuel Azevedo. I'm going to guess. It may be something different, but I feel like the OYE is an OJ sound. So Azevedo, Emmanuel Azevedo, 6'7", 295. Small time guy, out of Jacksonville State, an FCS school in Alabama. But you can't look at 6'7", 295, 41 tackles, 6.5 for loss, 4.5 sacks in 2025, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles. Well, the guy's getting it done. Now, again, how that translates from Jacksonville State and the FCS to Florida and the SEC, that's a lot to remain to be seen, a lot to be desired there. We'll see. But you got to like where the starting point, right? 6'7" defensive end, 295 pounds. That guy has an NFL body right now. And if you can unleash a little bit and take him to the next level, Joe Kim jump, you'll be in good shape.
I told Shane he's like John Matuzak at Too Tall Jones. I mean, this guy is just a monster of a specimen. And now I'm going to steal your line. You said yesterday, you better hope he's Jared Verse and not Joey Slackman, because that is, you just don't know what you're getting. I mean, this is wait and see, just like with recruiting. They did beat A&M for the kid. I will tell you 2 guys I don't think anybody's like necessarily talking about. Maybe they are, but are the critical gets. Patrick Durkin and Alec Clark, a kicker and a punter. You lost Trace Mack, 10 50-yarders, school record, very good kicker. Had a couple questionable misses at times, I guess, but I thought he was elite. He was key to winning those 2 big games against LSU and Ole Miss 2 years ago in the Swamp. Tommy Doman he had a tough act to follow in Jeremy Crawshaw. Doman wasn't bad. 44 yards and it's 17 inside the 20. But this Alec Clark kid is another Aussie who followed Jonathan Galante, the new special teams coach from Marshall to Tulane last season, averaged 46.5, was the American Conference, All-American Conference punter, 16 inside the 20. So I like it. You got to get specialists. Those guys are critical, and special teams has been an issue here for too many seasons, and you got to build there. So I like those pickups.
Yeah, and I think you probably go. I don't know how good DJ Coleman's going to be at safety, but that's a position they have to get better at. They have not been good enough on the back end. You think they've got some talent coming back at cornerback, but certainly safety is a big question mark after losing Castell, losing Aaron Gates, losing there was one more they lost. Who else? Didn't they lose another safety? Anyway, so Coleman.
We lost Denson at nickel because I was going to get to that.
Thinking.
Cam Doley signed yesterday. Yeah. I didn't send you him on the list. Mark's covering the Jags playoffs, and he's juggling about 5 schools. So Cam Dooley, Kentucky kid, played for the new safeties coach, Chris Collins, 4-star prospect, number 8 athlete in the 2024 class, 6'2", 208. I think they feel like he can step in possibly at the nickel. He played safety. He could be a versatile guy and really help them there. So he was a good pickup yesterday, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah. So I agree.
Safeties so they've hit a lot of their areas of. They got a couple of defensive linemen, certainly went heavy on the offensive line, got the quarterback settled, went back in of the defense, which we knew they had to do, went running back after losing some guys. So it was a very need-filled free agent period, whatever you're going to call it, portal period, to be able to raise the floor, right? Who knows what the ceiling is on this team? I think a lot of it will be determined on what they are at quarterback, what they look like offensively. You think they're going to be pretty good defensively. They're going to at least have some core players, but they raise the floor by filling all of these spots with guys who have experience.
And more to come. There are more guys they're pursuing, again, at the risk of butchering names, Amika Ugorigi.
Oh, too late. You butchered it.
Well, it's Ugorji. Have fun with that one. He's a Texas native. They really like him. Stanford lineman. That they really want him, I hear. You got Jordan Norman, an edge from Tulane. You would think would want to play for his former coach. He was productive, 6 sacks last year. I heard the defensive front for Tulane from our buddy Gary Smith, who covered the team, was good, very good, and had some SEC caliber players potentially there. And then you had Adam Trick, the Miami of Ohio transfer. I think they're still pursuing. He was a guy who just steadily improved and produced. We'll see where he lands. So there's still more to happen here. But I'll tell you 2 guys I was looking at early this morning, Mark, that are really, really intriguing. Keyshawn Brown, Duke receiver, 64 catches last year, 846.5 scores. He's 5'8", 165. But, man, he is an explosive kid. I was looking at his high school stats. I mean, this guy in high school, I can't even imagine, playing against this kid, man. He was like amazing. 21 yards a catch, 26 scores his last 2 seasons, almost 2,000 yards. And then he played tailback as a sophomore, 823, 8 scores on just 80 carries, 823 yards. So, and then you get Trey Richardson from Vanderbilt. He's a kid out of Topeka who went to a D2 school, Washburn. Good program, Washburn, for D2. But then he transferred to Vandy last year, led the team with 806, tied for the lead with 7 touchdowns, playing with Diego. He runs sub 4.4. They say he's like 4.3 guy, and he is blazing. And these 2 guys, when you lose Aiden Mizell and Take Hawkins and Trey Wilson, who were all explosive players, fast guys, a little more speed would be nice to have for sure.
Well, and you look, I think you got to look at some of the guys they lost and at least acknowledge that they weren't really wanted back. They weren't high priority guys. And I'm not trying to dump on a guy who's got a foot out the door, 2 feet out the door, signing elsewhere. But when you're a new staff, a new coaching staff, new front office staff, and you're evaluating talent and paying, $1 million, or upwards of 27 or more million, $30 million to this roster, you better A, be talented, B, be available. Those are the two big things. And when you look at the guys who have left, the majority of them are leaving because they're injury prone and they just haven't been on or they haven't performed, right? They have been inability to perform or they just haven't performed for whatever reason. And that would be a guy like Tank Hawkins. That would be a guy like Aiden Mizell. That would be a guy like DJ Lagway. Those guys, or Trey Wilson, those guys are out the door mostly because, how do you pay these guys the money you're talking and you can't depend on them to stay healthy? So you just got to go in a different direction. And to me, that's the guys who are going to get paid in the portal usually. Trey Wilson did get paid, but the guys who are going to get paid in the portal are the guys who have done it and done it while staying healthy and been available as much as anything.
So the Gators rank currently 247. Now, I don't think Dooley is on there and whether he'd give him a bump or London Montgomery, but 21st in the portal rankings right now as a team, respectable for sure, right?
For first-year coach, absolutely.
But their highest rated transfer is Aaron Philo, 124. And then our buddy from Jacksonville State, Emmanuel, who I won't butcher your name here, is 156. And again, they beat A&M for him. Trey Wilson, 47. Mekhi Burrow, heading to LSU. Mekhi Burrow, 80, heading to Ole Miss. And
Mekhi Burrow has an arrest on his record and 2 bad knees.
Okay, I'm not criticizing. I'm
criticizing the rankings.
115. Well, I'm about to get to that, but okay. Aiden Mizell going to UCLA, 115. So they lost 3 guys in the top 120 according to this. But where I was going with it is, okay, but Malachi Toney was a 3-star recruit out of American Heritage. How that happened is beyond me. Solid career, 20-some touchdowns. I mean, wasn't like insane numbers, but look at what he is. So rankings don't mean anything, but I just found it interesting. 3 guys are ahead of the highest rated incoming transfer. I think Burrow would have been nice to keep personally. The other 2 I could live without.
It's totally fair, but again, every time Trey Wilson played, he got hurt. Every time Aiden Mizell played, he got hurt.
I could live without. I said I would. Mekhi Burrow, I think, would have been a nice piece to have if he would, but he couldn't stay healthy, as you pointed out.
Couldn't practice. 2 bad knees, and he has an arrest on his record. How are you going to give that guy $1 million?
Well, if he wanted $1 million, you definitely show him the door.
800,000, 750,000, whatever. It's closer to $1 million than anything else. Yeah.
Well, speaking of millionaires, Jadan Baugh got in a bidding war for him with Texas. And in the end, familiarity, maybe friendships, maybe a sense of loyalty, maybe proximity to Atlanta. Going to have to get on a plane 6-7 times a year to go to Austin, where you can just get in your car and drive down the highway 5 hours if you're his family. Whatever the decision, whatever went into that decision, I think Jadan had a wait and see kind of wanted to see what they were going to do up front. And I think he likes what he's seeing. And so he signed on Tuesday, was it? But it does kind of highlight some issues with the process, doesn't it, Mark?
Well, the number one issue is Jadan Baugh never entered the transfer portal. So if, again, he's got a relationship with the running backs coach now at Texas, but to think that Florida was in a bidding war with Texas for Jadan Baugh's services, that's just a huge red flag. And it's like, wait. This guy never entered the transfer portal, and he was negotiating with Texas. Okay, well, that already, and this was even before the portal opened on January 2nd. You had heard about Texas and the Texas offer being $1.5 million and Florida being in the ballpark at $1.3 million. And you're just going, okay, well, that already is somebody needs to report somebody and get that figured out, because that should not happen. And there are rules in the NFL that prevent that from happening. You can't even talk about a player on another team if you're a general manager, you can talk about how, hey, that guy's a good player, but you can't talk about, well, being interested to see what he does in the offseason. Oh, maybe he should know that Florida doesn't have state income tax. All those things. You can't say that without punishment. And the punishment is losing draft picks, right? You get whacked big time. What if the punishment for tampering with a player who's under contract with another program, what if the punishment was you lose $1 million in rev share? Well, when your pot is 15.8 for rev share and you're going to lose $1 million for tampering, now you're talking, right? That's the kind of punishment, that's the kind of rules and guardrails that you're going to have to get this thing straightened out and maybe have some sort of I don't want to say guardrails, but just some sort of rules and guidelines that people are going to actually respect and follow. And you're going to have an enforcement authority that has the teeth to drop the hammer here and make people pay in a way that they can't, snake around it.
So 2023 out in Destin, I wrote a story on tampering, and Kirby Smart, said it's been going on a long time, right? Billy Napier, who wasn't very controversial, as we know, said there's no doubt tampering's real. It's a cutthroat business. And even Hugh Freeze is weighing in on it, Hugh Freeze of all people. So this has been a concern even before this one window and the rev share and all that. But it's legion now. I mean, it's nonstop. And so it's interesting. Jaden Woods did actually enter the portal, so he was able to negotiate. And I heard Oregon was pursuing him pretty strongly. I mean, Dan Lanning saw something he liked. So it's good the Gators got him back. But I will tell you, I find it bizarre that Jon Sumrall, Brad White, and Bam Hardman had to get on a plane and fly to Kansas to convince Jaden Woods to come back to Florida for, presumably 7 figures. And I mean, the guy had 28 tackles, 3.5 sacks, had an interception, had a couple big hits, certainly flashed, certainly created push. He could be a real issue next year for opponents, and he better be, because if he isn't consistently an impactful player, the microscope is just going to be on him bigger than it would normally be if he was just a guy, just didn't play very well this year. And, he's supposed to be good. But now you're putting yourself in this position as young people, and I don't blame them at all. I mean, take the money, get it while you can get it. But it does kind of change the dynamic a little bit from my perspective. I'm not predicting how I'm going to handle it. We'll see how it goes as media members. But I've tended to handle college players with kids' gloves because, at least relative to us, they are kids. And, they're young men. They can vote and all that. And plenty of them are of legal age to drink or whatever, right? They all can drive. So they're not children, but they are young men. And I mean, do you treat college players differently, Mark? And will you going forward? I mean, it's becoming more like the NFL day by day.
Yeah, it's probably certainly been trending that way. Now the money's in the open, right? It's not like these guys weren't getting paid before, but now the money's in the open. The numbers are much more readily available. Boogie Flan's a good example. I mean, when Boogie Flan's making $2 million, it's hard not to rip Boogie Flan for making $2 million, right? And so you look at this, and yeah, I think you should. The NFL veteran minimum is rookie minimum is like $800,000 right now. Veteran minimum is over $1 million. So that's similar. When these guys all have their hand out and are asking for $750,000 or $1 million to play football, to play a shorter season, right? NFL 17 games, 3 preseason games, 20 games plus the postseason. College football is 13, 14, 15 at most nowadays. So, I think you can treat these guys like professional athletes. They are as close to professional athletes without being professional athletes as you can get. it's almost like Olympians, right? You treat Olympians like, hey, you are getting paid or being expected to do the job at the elite level. And if you don't do it, if you stumble and fall, or if you finish dead last in your heat, or you whatever, you drop the baton, don't get it done. Basketball, some of these great basketball teams with pros, and that's a little bit different because they're already pros, but when they don't perform to the level you expect, it comes with criticism. And I think that's absolutely the case for football. I don't think that's anything new, but I do think it's going to a whole new level in terms of accountability and responsibility and criticism that they're going to get, not just from social media and fans, but from coaches and from, everybody, teammates. I think that's all. It's all going to be more and more acceptable.
Yeah, and the reporters are asking them questions on a daily basis, like we are, and it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic shifts if it does. I think your line that I liked is, I asked you if you handled it differently. You said I probably do and probably shouldn't. Is what you said yesterday. Yeah, and
in my defense, it's hard. I blur the lines a little bit because my life is blurred with college and pro. I cover both equally on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and so I get, it's hard for me to distinguish between A and B. They all to me kind of start running together, especially when you see the college kids in the NFL locker rooms, and I see Ventrell Miller on a daily basis. So you start treating, I think you just start treating them all the same.
You better not be ripping Ventrell. I love him. Yeah, he's one of the best. 20 players, pushing 30 even, maybe, entered the portal. I think 247 saying 30 now. Biggest one, DJ Lagway, obviously the most high-profile one, announced December 15th. He was moving on. He's heading to Baylor. That was a school mentioned early. It was also on a list that included LSU, which would have been a dynamic. I don't think anyone wanted here in Gainesville. Lane Kiffin getting his hands on DJ, turning him into a great player, after spurring the Gators for the Tigers, but spurning. And, I think it's a good spot for DJ. Big 12, a little wide open. He's 150 miles from home. Willis, Texas is just 2 hours and some, away from Willis, southeast of it. And his dad went there. So he went to FSU last Sunday and Monday and created kind of, a little bit of a firestorm there, seen hugging Mike Norvell and saying how great a visit he had. I don't know how that all went in the end. I think he headed to Virginia, where Tony Elliott's really executed a pretty impressive turnaround, and he's a great offensive mind. He called plays for Dabo Swinney for at least one, if not both, those national title teams in 16 and 18. So those would have been good landing spots for him. But I like the fit at Baylor.
Yeah, I like for Florida that he's far away, right? I don't think when you heard about Miami being in the mix, you heard about Florida State, him visiting Florida State. There was talk about LSU, right? Could he be a fallback option at LSU if Trinidad Chambliss gets another year and stays at Ole Miss? So there was all these options where, Florida could have seen DJ, whether it be in 2026 or 2027, whatever the case. Baylor's like best case scenario. I don't even know that Florida and Baylor could play in a bowl game. I'm sure there's some bowl game that pits the two conferences, but it would have to, the stars would really have to align for that to happen. So this is the best case. It's the best case for DJ getting back into Texas. It's the best case for Florida that, that you're not going to have to see this guy again if he does figure it out. So, to me, that's where it's a win for everybody.
It sounds like Chambliss, if he gets that year, is going to stay at Ole Miss, which
yes,
I hope
agreed.
to see, which would be excellent to see that kind of. I mean, why would he leave? I mean, it's fantastic what's going on there, right? Yeah, the DJ DJ to FSU or Miami would not have been good. I'll tell you, DJ is coming back to Florida though next season, Mark. Baylor plays at UCF.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that'll coincide with the bye week. It'd be kind of fun to go down and see how
that would be something to him, see our faces in the post game. It'd be good.
I like the kid. I wish him well. I'll tell you, Baylor was a charter member of the Southwest Conference, Mark. You remember it. No longer exists.
Oh, yeah.
Cheating, right? They cheated their way to extinction. Money to players is nothing new, especially in the SEC. But I tell you, this wealth distribution is showing up on the playing field, man.
It's leveled, absolutely leveled the playing field. The SEC, whatever advances or, head and shoulders above everybody else, it's now been diminished. Everybody has money. Everybody's paying 15.8 at minimum. Boosters are not coming out of the woodwork because they realize this is the way it's legal, right? Everybody was concerned before about what happens if I get caught, right? What happens if I get caught paying? I'm going to lose my season tickets. I'm going to lose, I get chance to be humiliated publicly, get banned. My kids get picked on at school. I get banned from games for life. There was a lot at stake, right? To be, shoveling money to bagmen and try to get this thing done. There was a lot at risk. So now it's legal and people are coming out of the woodwork to pay, and they're a lot bigger. What we're finding out is there are a lot bigger programs or have deeper pockets than some of these SEC schools. You and I have talked about it. Having a billionaire oil man in the state of Texas or having Nike backing you at Oregon is a lot bigger than what people have at Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Florida State. All those schools you think are certainly going to be hard pressed. You're going to have to figure out ways to compete with these people with deeper pockets. I think Arkansas certainly has some pretty deep pockets. It'll be interesting to watch. I've said it on here before, and I'll say it again. These oil schools, the schools in Texas, the schools with some billionaire oil men, those are absolutely ones to watch, because if somebody wants to start buying talent, we're seeing it at Texas Tech. If somebody wants to start buying talent and really funding this, you can spend whatever you want to spend. The number, we thought the number was going to be around 25 million, including 15.8 in rev share, and then another 10 million in NIL. No way. It's 30 million to get in the game, and it's upwards the good schools. And this is what I've been told, that the top schools are going to be spending, if not already spending, $40 and $50 million to build a roster every single year. And you add it up, and it's not hard. You go and look, ESPN did a story. Somebody else is, and a lot of people have kind of, written out, quarterbacks are costing you almost $5 million, up to $5 million. A starting quarterback, starting running back, average is like $500,000. So when you add it all up and you just get your 22 players, that's just your starting 22. You're talking about a roster that's, in the 20s, 20 million plus. So then you got to double that to have two deep at every spot, to have 44 on the two deep, and really rosters are 85. So to have reserves, specialists, all that, I mean, it's insane. The numbers are just insane. I think the average Power 4 program average is going to be $27 million right now, is what they're projecting. $27 million roster. That's the average. And that's for a bunch of schools that hope to get in the tournament, but probably don't expect to get in the tournament. The teams that want to get in the tournament are going to be having to spend over $30 million.
I mean, you still got to convince certain guys too. I mean, you mentioned a couple of schools. I mean, Jimmy Rain is at Auburn. He's a billionaire, but Jim Haslam is as rich as anybody, right? And he's a Tennessee guy. I mean, is a guy who's 94, 5 years old, is he like going to suddenly like shift his thinking to like he wants to start paying teenagers $1 million a year? You got to convince some people who actually have money to do it too, because not everyone wants to do it. And not everyone's willing to go all in because they're just so determined to win football games. So you got.
Well, there was a recent story about Troy Aikman giving big time money to his alma mater, which is UCLA, right?
Yep.
And what happened? He gave big time money for one guy to transfer in and play. Well, the guy was gone in 1 year, and Troy's like, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to pay big money for one guy for 1 year." And then, I'm looking at this as a developmental sport. You commit, I'm going to pay you, and you've committed, and now go get good, right? And if that's not going to be the case, if it's going to be, I'm going to pay you, and then you're going to bail on me in 1 year to go somewhere else, grass is greener. No way. I'm not doing it. It's a flawed system, and only the real fanatical fans want to be involved at that level, right? Paying that kind of money to have a guy basically turn his back on you and bail.
Just think if you put all those millions into DJ Lagway, and who left.
People did.
I know. I didn't. I wouldn't, even if I had the money. But in any of these players, I wouldn't spend a dime on this enterprise personally, but that's just me. If I don't have a dime to spare, but if I did, I wouldn't. I don't get it, but people can spend money any way they want. People don't get probably why I like to play golf. But here's my thing, man, is DJ left with probably money owed, right? I think they just made a clean break and said, "Hey, God bless," and just let it just roll. I mean, it's like making, I don't even have a stock off the top of my head, but it's like putting in on a stock that just like, goes to zero almost. Anyhow, but Greg, the stock, let's just keep moving forward here. The stocks dropped in the SEC is what I was really going at. I mean, Greg Sankey, it's going to be a troubling postseason for him on some levels. He can be answering a lot of questions about this. Where is football in the SEC now? I'm not saying it's still not one of the top football conferences. You could still argue it is the top one. There's still more programs ready to win big in the SEC than anywhere. But the Big Ten is better at the top right now. You got to think, right? And I'm not saying the Big 12 or ACC has caught the SEC, mind you, but the SEC used to just dominate. Right now, they're 4-10 in the postseason. The SEC 4-10. Even stacking the deck, annexing Texas and Oklahoma hasn't given you the bang you expected. Bruce Feldman, the Athletic, longtime college football writer, excellent source guy. One Big Ten assistant coach told him, hard to ignore the fact that when everyone got to pay players, it leveled the playing field immediately. They can deny that all they want, but that's a fact. He went on, pointed out Big Ten 9-4, ACC 9-4 now, Big 12 4-4, SEC 4-10. Just interesting.
Yeah, I think the argument the SEC or SEC supporters will make is that often when you look at the bowl pairings, it's often the SEC is playing up because the SEC has a bigger conference, not bigger than the Big Ten, but because the SEC has a big conference, because the SEC has a lot of bowl tie-ins, because the SEC does so well on TV, that a lot of these bowls have the SEC 5 has to play the ACC 2, right? Or the SEC 4 is playing the Big Ten 3. So that's the argument people will make. I don't know how true it is. Certainly not anymore. Certainly not with these bowl pools. I think that's diminished a little bit. I think the reality is, the SEC hasn't shown up, and the SEC was down all year. When Alabama's down, Georgia's down, the whole league is down, and that's where we're at right now with Georgia not making a run in getting beat in its first game, and Alabama also not getting by the semis.
Yeah, I don't think Vanderbilt was punching up, right? Illinois beat them, my boys Illinois beat Tennessee, I'm sorry, and then Vandy lost to Iowa.
But you can make a case that Vandy, Vandy was punching down, but you make the case that was Vandy, I know Diego played, but how motivated was Vandy when your expectation becomes in December and November to make the CFP and then you get left out, maybe there's a motivational thing there that Vandy didn't have that Iowa did. I don't know. I'm just, again, it hasn't been good. I'm not trying to make excuses. It hasn't been good. Obviously, we've seen a step back in basketball this year. The SEC is not nearly as good as it was last year. Will it still get 10 teams in the tournament? Probably. But you can't look at the SEC right now and go, okay, that team is definitively a candidate to win it all. Maybe Vandy in basketball, maybe Arkansas, but certainly Kentucky's down, Florida's down, Auburn's down, Alabama had a tough loss the other night. Alabama's down. So when you look at some of the best programs in the league, all taking a little bit of a step back, you start to wonder if the whole league is coming, if last year might have been the exception, right?
SEC argument too, and this was also in the Feldman piece. The season is an extreme grind. This guy says pay zero attention to bowls. Other teams get to the playoff a lot fresher. Ohio State didn't get tested enough. The physicality over the course wears on guys, and now you're going to 9 games. The second reason is everyone's so well-resourced. Kentucky's like 13th or 14th best among 16 teams in the ACC in terms of resources. They might be 3rd and 4th in the ACC. So just an interesting topic, and one that'll definitely consume the offseason, and Greg Sankey will be asked about a lot. But back to basketball, like you're saying, the SEC isn't quite, and you did say Florida's down. Certainly they already have more losses than a season ago at 10-5 after going 36-4. We know this was going to be different. I said the other day, you and I were talking about this, margin of loss, 3.4 points. Only one bad loss in there to TCU, which is actually pretty good. It turns out, if you look, I think 11-3, but they lost close games, to UConn up in the Northeast, to Arizona out in the West, in Las Vegas, and at Duke by a point. The other night, Mike White came to town. It wasn't looking, it was looking like it was going to be a nail biter down to the end. And then the kid threw the elbow at Chinyelu, took out their best front court player, and the Gators just feasted from there for a 15-point win. Pretty impressive win, a really needed win. You do not want Mike White coming into Gainesville and beating you. And he has a good team. And I think with his center in place, they'll be good. But I was impressed the other night with the performance, and Boogie Flan did come on during the second half. If he can play like he did in the second half more consistently, the Gators are going to definitely be a better team.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought he was, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, I think, something like that. A couple of steals in there. Yeah, they got it. This is who they've got to be. They've got to be a scrappy, gritty, defensive-minded bunch that gets up and down the floor and really just pummels their opponents physically. They have to use their physicality to their advantage. That is absolutely who they have to be. They cannot go into a game and it be even on the boards. Can't go into a game and give up, 15 offensive rebounds. That is not who they are. They've got too much depth, too much talent in the front court. The guards got to start getting downhill, taking advantage of some of that. Todd knows it. He acknowledged it, that, hey, this is who we are. This is who we have to be. Stop hoping for hope that all of a sudden these guys are going to figure it out and you're going to become this great shooting team. You're not. You hope that you can make 6 or 7, 8 a game and you move on. You're not going to stop taking them because you got to keep defenses honest. You got to take those shots. You got to hope that you make not more than you miss, but you got to hope that you make, can you make 30%? I think anything over 25 right now is considered positive. It's moving in a positive direction. And I think if you could get 30 or 33% in any given day, you would take that all day and think that you got a good chance of winning.
Tommy Houck was fantastic the other night, man. His athleticism, it's just so fun to watch. And he is just tireless. The guy's averaging 33.7 a game minutes and leads the SEC there. So Tennessee coming to town noon tomorrow will be an interesting game. I don't think Tennessee's quite what it's been the last few years, but it's still a very capable and good team. I forget the one player they have. Who's the stud for them? They have one guy who's excellent. I mean, they have more than one, but they have one star. So it'll be a fun day over there at the O-Dome. I like the noon tips, man. You're not there all night. So Foley's Corner shifting and closing here, Mark. Our weekly nod to the former athletic director who's focusing all around excellence is still being felt. One of the best programs on campus year after year is gymnastics. Last year was kind of a step backward. One reason, Kayla DiCello was unavailable. Sky Blakely might have been too. Both of them tore their Achilles tendons during the 2024 Olympic trials. Kayla DiCello was a freshman All-American. She was SEC Freshman of the Year 6 times 2 years ago. That team came close to winning an NCAA title, barely lost to Oklahoma. If Trinity Thomas hadn't been hurt in the regionals, that team probably would have won. Honestly, its first national title since 15. She's back after getting both Achilles tendons surgically repaired. One that she blew out, the other just from wear and tear from youth gymnastics. So she's coming back tonight at the O-Dome. All eyes will be on her and this team. It's always, a fun show. It'll probably be close to sold out. Your kids might even be going. I don't know. They tend to. Are they?
No, not yet. We will go to a gymnastics event at somewhere, but not this one.
Okay. Well, anyway, swimming's back at it. Top 10 in both sides. A lot of stuff coming up this spring. Foley's Corner is robust, but the pod is already dragged on, and we will leave it there, Mark. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks for having me as always. Jacoby Gillespie is the Tennessee players, averaging 18.7 points a game. Nate Ament is their other guy. We're really kind of a two-man show.
Oya Bada Joe, my boy. Oya Bada Joe, courtesy of Matthew Hutchinson, a faithful listener who heard me on Shane's show butchering the kid's name. I'm sure I'll butcher it again. Also want to thank our faithful producer, Wesley Alden, for continued efforts. The three of us appreciate everyone who took time from their busy lives to join us. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Swamp Things, your Florida Gators podcast. For more coverage, visit OrlandoSentinel.com and APnews.com. On Twitter, follow Edgar at OSGators and Mark at APMarkLong. Please subscribe to this podcast, share it on social media, and review it on iTunes. See you next time.